We spend so much time building these like digital fortresses around ourselves.
Right.
We get obsessed with strong passwords. We've all got two-factor authentication on everything. We're constantly checking our banking apps. We just assume that if our front door is locked up tight, we're safe. But I was going through the notes for this deep dive, specifically from that Cyber Afterwork discussion about the big STIC and RootedCon conferences, and this really unsettling thought just hit me.
Oh, yeah. What was that?
That the fortress doesn't matter one bit if the person delivering the milk just leaves the back gate wide open.
That is the perfect way to describe cybersecurity right now. Absolutely perfect. We all focus on our own little perimeter, right? But the sources we're digging into today, I mean, they cover everything from a huge airline breach to the literal backbone of the internet. And they all point to the same thing. The real danger isn't someone picking your lock, it's the invisible systems you depend on just failing.
Exactly. And we're going to cover a lot of ground. We've got a data breach at Iberia Airlines that's going to make you rethink what dangerous data even is. We have a flaw in WhatsApp that, well, it let researchers scrape billions of accounts.
Billions.
Then we'll get into the whole controversy around those V16 car beacons. And finally, we're going deep, deep into the plumbing of the internet with some amazing insights from Francesco Collini, the CEO of FlashStart.
It's a real journey from the apps you tap on every day to the invisible infrastructure, the DNS, that actually holds the whole thing together.
So let's start with the one that probably caught your eye recently, the Iberia Airlines incident. Now, looking at the report, Iberia confirmed a breach, customer information was exposed. But here's the kicker, and this is where most people kind of tune out. They said no banking data, no credit card numbers were taken. It was just names, surnames, and email addresses.
Right, and that's the classic few moment for everybody, They didn't get my money, so it's all good.
But reading the analysis, that sigh of relief seems, it's just so misplaced. The sources are saying that this benign data is actually more dangerous in the long run than a stolen credit card. I can cancel my credit card. I can't really cancel my own name.
Precisely. You have to think about what that data is used for. It's fuel. It's fuel for what we call social engineering. Look, if I'm a hacker and I steal your credit card, I've got a really short window to use it before you or the bank will notice. But if I have your full name, your email, and I know you just flew with Iberia, I can play the long game.
It's the context. The context is what gets you. If an email lands in my inbox from Iberia support, it uses my full name, and it mentions a flight I actually took. My guard is down.
Yeah.
I'm not suspicious. I'm helpful.
And that's the trap. That is the trap. They use that trust to get you to click a link that does steal your banking info or to get you to install some malware. The breach isn't the robbery itself. The breach is them casing the joint for the real robbery later.
And there's another layer to this Iberia story that I think is so important to grasp. Iberia itself, it wasn't really the direct target. This was a supply chain attack.
Yes. And this is the dominant trend now. The breach didn't happen on Iberia's mainframes. It happened at a third-party tech provider they used.
My milkman analogy again.
Exactly.
Iberia could have Fort Knox security, but if their booking vendor has a weak password, it's game over. Which raises this huge question about responsibility, right? The Data Protection Agency, the AEPD, they're involved. How do they even figure out who to blame in a chain like that?
It's nuanced. The sources were clear that the penalties aren't just about, did data get lost? The regulator looks at diligence. Did Iberia audit this provider? Did they have contracts spelling out security requirements? If you just hand your keys to a stranger, you're liable. If you did your homework and they still got breached, well, the penalty might be less severe.
So if the Iberia breach is about stealing your contest, this next one is about stealing your face. And honestly, this one scared me more. We're talking about WhatsApp.
Ah, the University of Vienna findings, yes.
Yeah. So researchers found a way to identify 3.5 billion accounts. And the wild part is, they didn't need some, Mission Impossible super exploit. They basically just knocked on the door really, really fast.
It was a failure of what we call rate limiting. Any API, which is just how software talks to other software, is supposed to have a bouncer at the door. If someone starts asking for data 1 million times a second, that bouncer is supposed to throw them out.
Right, but WhatsApp's bouncer was, on a coffee break?
Or just didn't exist for that specific function. The researchers fired off 100 million requests an hour to check if phone numbers were on WhatsApp. And because nothing stopped them, they could just scrape the public profile data for every single number that got a hit.
And again, you hit that so what moment. People will say, okay, so they have my profile photo of me holding my cat. Big deal. But connect it back to what we just talked about with Iberia.
It's the visual trigger for social engineering. Think about the Sun in Trouble scam. It's everywhere. You get a text from a number you don't know. Hi, Mom, I lost my phone. This is my new number, and I need money for a taxi.
Right, standard stuff. Most people would just ignore that.
But what if that message pops up and the little profile picture is the actual photo your son uses on his real account?
Oh, that's game over. My brain just sees the face and connects the dots. I stop thinking critically because I see him.
Exactly. By scraping those billions of photos, attackers build these massive identity databases. They can match a face to a name to a number. We're handing them the keys to our own psychology.
It's so weird that we're so willing to upload our faces everywhere, but then we get incredibly paranoid about other kinds of tech. Which brings me to the V16 beacons for cars.
Oh, the forums are on fire about this one.
And I get it. I really do. The government says you have to put a device in your car that has GPS and a SIM card, and it connects directly to the DGT, the traffic authority. In this day and age, of course, people are going to assume it's just a tracker to find them for speeding.
It is a classic case of, low public trust meeting new technology, but we have to separate the fear from the actual architecture of the device. The Data Protection Agency had to step in and put out a statement because this privacy panic was getting so loud.
So, looking at the technical details in the source material, is there any truth to the fear that the DGT is watching us all drive?
In a word, no. And here's why. The device is dormant. It's essentially air-gapped from the network most of the time. It only wakes up and connects when you physically push the button because your car is broken down.
So it's not pinging cell towers while I'm just driving to the grocery store.
No. And even when you do press the button, the data it sends is tiny. It's just the geolocation of the stopped vehicle. That's it. It doesn't send your car's VIN. It doesn't send your name. It just says, a car is stopped at these coordinates.
It feels like a massive failure of communication. The tech itself sounds like it was built with privacy by design. It's anonymous, it's on demand, but because nobody explained that, the whole narrative was just hijacked.
That's the lesson, isn't it? If you don't explain how the invisible tech works, people will invent a horror story to fill in the blanks.
Speaking of invisible tech, let's pivot to the very backbone of the internet. The source material has this fantastic interview with Francesco Collini, the CEO of FlashStart. He talks about DNS. And he makes this point that I just don't think people realize. We're running our entire modern AI-powered world on a protocol from 1983.
The 1983 problem, it really does put things into perspective, doesn't it?
Collini calls DNS the phone book of the internet. But it's a phone book that was written when the internet was a tiny, tiny village.
Exactly. I mean, who was online in 83? A few universities, the military, everybody knew everybody. The whole system that translates, Google.com into an IP address your computer can use was built on one thing: trust. It just assumed that if a server gave you an answer, it was telling the truth.
And it was designed to be centralized.
Right. In a village, one phone book is fine. But today, with billions of devices, having these huge central points of failure is just catastrophic. And we've seen it. When a big provider like Cloudflare or AWS has a problem, it's not just one website that goes down. It's Twitter, Canva, ChatGPT, half the internet just blinks out of existence.
The library with the only phone book catches fire. Collini talks about how FlashStart tries to solve this with their Anycast network and decentralization. They have something like 85 servers around the world.
It's all about resilience through distribution. If their Madrid server goes down, the traffic just instantly reroutes to the one in Lisbon. You're not relying on one giant pillar that can fall over.
But the part of that interview that really blew my mind wasn't even about the outages. It was the sheer volume of new threats. Collini dropped a statistic I had to read twice. He said between 40 and 45,000 new websites appear every single day.
And here's the kicker.
Yeah.
98.5% of them are fraudulent, malicious, or dangerous.
That's just insane. It means the default state of a new website is malicious. If you stumble on a new site, it's almost guaranteed to be a trap.
This is industrial-scale warfare, and it ties right back into AI. This isn't some guy in a basement registering domains by hand. These are DGA's domain-generated algorithms. AI systems are just churning out thousands of nonsense domain names, hosting malware on them for an hour, and then they just vanish before anyone can block them.
So it's AI fighting AI now.
It has to be. A human analyst can't possibly review 45,000 sites a day. So FlashStart uses its own AI to inspect these new domains in real time, categorize them, and block them before your computer even gets the IP address.
And that's a key difference. We think of antivirus as something that stops a bad file after you've downloaded it. This DNS filtering, it stops the connection from ever being made in the first place. The phone book just refuses to give you the number.
That upstream protection is so vital because, as we saw with WhatsApp, once that connection is made, the damage is often already done.
Okay, I want to geek out for just a minute on the actual tools here. The material from the STIC and RootedCon conferences got into some really specific tech that the good guys are using.
The tools of the trade, yes. This is where you see the difference between a hobbyist and a professional.
They mentioned a tool called Radar E2, and they even name-dropped the creator, a Spaniard known as Pancake or Trufe. Now, I'm not a coder, but they made this sound like a reverse engineering beast.
It is. When you find a piece of malware, it's usually just a binary, a block of ones and zeros. It's a total black box. Radar E2 is like an MRI for that code. It lets researchers tear it apart, look at the individual instructions, and figure out, okay, this bit here is trying to turn on the webcam, or this part is sending data to a server in Russia.
So it's like forensic pathology for software.
That's a great way to put it. Without tools like that, you are just flying blind.
And then there was N8N. This one seemed more about workflow automation. They described it as just connecting boxes visually.
So that's about solving a different problem. Burnout. A security operations center, SOC, gets thousands of alerts every day. Failed login attempt, suspicious IP address. A human can't check them all. They'll miss the real attack. N8N lets them build automated responses without writing complex code.
So I could just drag a box that says, if IP address is from country X, and connect it to another box that says, block connection immediately.
Exactly. It automates all the routine stuff. It lets the human analysts focus on the really complex, novel attacks, while the software just handles the background noise.
But that leads to a really interesting concern that Kalini brought up, this educational gap. We have these incredible tools, but he feels the younger generation knows how to use the tools, how to write a prompt, but they don't get the fundamentals underneath.
It's the ping versus prompt debate. Young crows are amazing at getting AI to generate a solution. But if the network actually goes down, do they know how to open a command line and type ping to see if the server is even online? Do they understand how a router works?
They can drive the Ferrari, but they have no idea how the engine works.
And that's dangerous, because when the AI messes up or the tool breaks, you need that foundational, that 1983 knowledge to fix it. You can't just live on the surface.
Okay, we have covered so much high-level stuff: global infrastructure, binary reverse engineering, API flaws. I want to bring this right down to ground level for you. The sources gave some really practical advice. It was framed around Black Friday, but honestly, it's just advice for being alive on the internet.
Absolutely. These are the evergreen rules.
The first one is something I've started doing all the time: virtual cards.
This is the single best thing you can do to limit the damage from a breach. Most banking apps have it now. You generate a temporary card number that's good for one purchase or has a tiny spending limit.
So if I'm buying from a site I'm not totally sure about, I use a virtual card. If that site's vendor gets hacked, like in the Iberia case, the hackers get a useless dead number. My real account is totally firewalled off.
It is a firewall for your wallet. I can't recommend it enough.
Second tip: banking alerts.
Don't wait a month for your statement to arrive. By then, it's too late. Set your app to send a push notification for every single transaction. If you see a 50-cent charge you don't recognize, that's often a thief testing your card. You can shut it down instantly.
And the third one, which is a huge pet peeve of mine: public Wi-Fi.
It is astounding how many people will do their online shopping or banking on the free Wi-Fi at a coffee shop. It is trivial, and I mean trivial, for someone else in that room to intercept everything you're doing.
Just assume public Wi-Fi is like shouting your password across a crowded room. Don't do it. Use your phone's mobile data. It's encrypted.
Or a VPN, if you must. But honestly, your mobile data is the simplest, safest option.
And finally, the oldest rule in the book: if a deal looks too good to be true.
It's a scam. It's always a scam. You are not getting a new iPhone for $50. You are volunteering to have your identity stolen. Check the URL. Verify the site. Greed is a hacker's very best friend.
We've covered a massive arc today. We started with this idea of a digital shield, and we learned that shield is really this patchwork of, old protocols from the 80s, third-party vendors who might leave the door open, and our own psychology being turned against us.
But we also saw how that shield can be reinforced. We have tools like DNS filtering that block threats before they even reach you. We have automation, and we have simple habits like using virtual cards that make us much harder targets.
Kalini said something in his interview that I think just sums it all up. He said, DNS is democracy because everyone needs it.
That's a really profound thought. The internet is this great equalizer, but it's also this shared responsibility. We're all connected to the same fragile system.
And that's the final thought I want to leave you with. We're rushing headfirst into this AI future. We're building these amazing, shiny skyscrapers of technology apps that write poems, cars that talk to stoplights. But are we forgetting about the foundation? We're running the 21st century on a protocol from 1983 that was built on trust, in a world where trust is the rarest thing there is.
We need to make sure the concrete is solid before we add another floor to the skyscraper.
Be the human firewall in your own network.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive.
Stay secure.